Okay. So our first question was, according to Keys, there's a mystery in the sharp contrast between the inertia of prospects and the evangelical zeal of TiVo users. As an emerging expert in consumer behavior, how would you tackle that mystery? What do you think could be going on? What might evangelists mention as a cause of their failure to sell TiVo to their friends? What might a couch potato say about his reluctance to buy TiVo? What would you expect a top executive at NBC to say about this situation?
So I guess I'll start. You want me to start? I'll start real quick. So it looks like their focus on the inertia, like breaking through that inertia, was to address this emotional response. And to me, I think that was probably incorrect thinking, because they're going after that effect-based marketing strategy, and to me, that only works when the product is like evokes emotion.
People already know.
Yeah, and I don't know if a device like a TiVo, I mean, if just the device itself, the hardware, that doesn't evoke feelings for me. So I don't know. I think that might be the wrong approach. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I kind of felt the same way, that they were maybe going out after the wrong market. Like most of the majority of the market, or what they were calling the majority, are probably people who don't feel emotion to this product. They want to know, what is it going to do for them and how's it going to help their lifestyle. And their approach was more on the qualitative side than the quantitative side. They really weren't showing the data that said, this is how this is going to help you. I mean, they weren't selling like the recording feature as much as they could have. So I think that's kind of where their downfall was, that they maybe weren't focused on the right aspect of what this new technology could do. They thought it was more of an emotional market.
I was thinking that part of their approach for the emotional responses was due to the time frame. With it being 2002, that was when there's a huge knowledge shift from personal. Google was really hitting the ground running. And back then, AOL was still a big server, right, that a lot of people used. So I think their approach for looking at the emotional responses may be as a result of the kind of the Y2K phenomenon that took place. We were so scared to jump on the technology bandwagon, if you will. So I think that's not necessarily a bad approach. I just think that they shouldn't have put all of their resources in one area.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've talked a little bit about like what could have been going wrong, I guess I'd something to their friends that'd be like, this could be a luxury for them. Most people would want to spend the extra cost for their product to use this. So it's something that's same as something that's not necessarily a product they want to use all the time, right? People aren't home. They can use it then, but if somebody's sitting at the house, like a couch potato, they can just sit there and watch whatever they want to. And maybe they like having the idea of watching commercials instead of being able to eliminate that. So I guess there's a couple of responses that they could use with evangelists and couch potatoes.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting about the couch potato. I mean, this is someone who they have plenty of time to watch TV. They don't need a recording feature. So to spend that cost, it's no value added for them. So, I mean, I think that the TiVo marketing group really has to look at who are the most frequent TV watchers. Is it someone like a couch potato? How do we market to them? Because they don't see this as a need.
And if they're using a qualitative approach, I think doing a couple surveys is the wrong way to do that. Just based on our last case study.
Yeah, I think the purely qualitative approach kind of makes this more of a high risk, so that the NBC executive, if you will, this is a high risk and not want to invest a lot of their time. I know initially they supported the TiVo product, but it could negatively impact the NBC brand, because people could say that, well, if NBC is supporting this, then NBC is not as good as this product, right? If they're not fans of TiVo product.
Yeah, I kind of thought the NBC the top executive at NBC, that was kind of interesting to me that even in the beginning that they supported this, because I think they make a lot of money off of their advertisements. And TiVo, I mean, you can record through commercials. That's something that TiVo might not want to sell as much because it doesn't market very well to when they look at the advertisers and the networks as consider them a commercial or a consumer. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they even invested them in the beginning, and they might see that since TiVo's not doing as well, they might not want to continue marketing. I kind of agree with you, Russell.
Yeah, right. I think it might take a little too much money to build this brand. I know it's something that's new and it's starting off and it's kind of slow, but to build a strong brand, it could take 1 to 8 years, is something that I read online. And putting in all that money that they're already losing, especially with the net loss that they've recurred every year, it may not be a good choice for them or an executive's mind to continue with the promotion.
Yeah, I agree.
So where are we?
So I think we can move on to question 2.
Okay.
So question 2 says, look at the data in the case exhibits. What hypothesis gets supported versus discounted? What other insights do you derive from the data summarized in the text and exhibits that might help guide the growth of TiVo?
So I'll start. I kind of, when I looked at this, I kind of looked at it with a big picture mindset, and I realized that this what interests me, because I'm a security engineer, I do security analysis. What interests me was that the fact that they started collecting logs, and they're kind of in that gray area of privacy. And I wonder if they were one of the first companies that started doing this to get more insight on their consumers. And then all of a sudden that kind of turns into a product in itself. Mm-hmm. That's probably why like NBC was, like, oh, this is interesting data, that they could, exploit, on their consumers to try to make their products better and their services. But I think that data could be supported because that's it. That it is what it is. There's no subjectivity to that type of data.
Yeah, I thought that the data from the Super Bowl was really interesting. It really showed how to use the product and how to benefit everyone, not just the consumer. So it was kind of surprising that they did something like that so late in the game. I think they did it towards the end of 2001 or beginning of 2002, and the TiVo started in late 1990s. So there was a few years, it just kind of made me question, like, what were they doing to market this? Because that was great data. So it really supported their hypothesis that that users would find this valuable because of the recording features, because of the rewind and everything. And so to see them do that so late in the game was pretty interesting.
Well, and something I found interesting based on the data showing in Exhibit 3 that the vast majority of the users that were new to TiVo knew someone that already had TiVo. So it's kind of like asking your friends, if you will, for their input before signing up for a product. I was kind of curious to see that they didn't offer the current users any additional perks for, I guess, recruiting new users. Like that was part of their struggle in the beginning, was getting new users, not necessarily retaining the ones that bought the product. So the fact that their data supported current users knowing someone that already had the product, I was surprised they didn't kind of approach that differently to recruit new users.
Yeah, I agree. I think I got on Exhibit 3 that it said that 70% of people that actually had TiVo were referred the product by a friend. So it makes sense to go ahead and try to promote using some sort of like a family and friends discount to get more people on board. Maybe they would be more likely to purchase the product, even with the added cost, and maybe even a little discount could help somebody out, right? I think they definitely got a lot of good information, especially using those that data, or using those questionnaires to figure out where this information was coming from and where the biggest sources of this information was.
Well, and I want to touch on this really quick. It's interesting that all their focus is on how to earn more positive cash flow, but they're at least in this case, there's no assessment on their cost other than providing the data on cost.
That's probably when we look at what hypotheses get discounted. I mean, that's probably one of them. They said that they took all of this into consideration for pricing and advertising, but it doesn't sound like it for pricing, because you look at who are the people who are buying this the most, and they're people who are making over $100K a year. So that's probably not helping much with the cash flow issue.
Yeah.
Maybe they're spending too much money on marketing the wrong target groups, right? Instead of, pushing something that's going to be doing, right?
Any other insights that we derive from the data that might discount what they're doing? I thought one that was interesting is that about the recording feature. It didn't seem like they were really promoting this as much, even though it's something that the majority of the consumers, based on the surveys, were using the most. So I'm interested. I would like to know a little bit more, like, how were they promoting this? Because I'm a woman and I look at the demographics, and it was a very low rate of women who were interested in this product. So I'm wondering why wasn't TiVo interesting to me 10 plus years ago? So I think that maybe they could have looked a little bit more into that market and how they could sell that feature. Because for me, I love the recording feature. So maybe at the time they weren't promoting it as much as they could have.
Yeah, and something I thought was interesting in the text is they were mentioning that 65% of the top features, if you will, were the combination of the record feature and the trick play feature. So between the two of those, I was close to 65% of the results. And something I would be curious to see is if they mentioned when they pulled the statistics from the Super Bowl, the most replayed moment was the winning field goal at the end of the game from New England. And I'd like to see them almost make a commercial out of that and say, well, in case you missed it, this is what you can do with our product, and continue to show that over and over, or even whatever the top commercial was for that Super Bowl, and kind of utilize that as a strategy to target some of the potential users.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a really good idea. I think that probably leads us into kind of our next question. If you could time travel to the early days of the company, what would your advice be to Keys for the research they could be conducting? Other types of insights you could be looking for at the outset. Anyone have thoughts on things that you would do differently at the startup of TiVo?
Well, I'll start with that. But in retrospect, hindsight's 20/20. But at the time, like it was mentioned before, technology was just, the competition was crazy. There's lots of things happening. So I would have recommended that they stay on top of that on their competition, because that's really, I think, where they failed in the market to address their competition and the constant advancement of technology. So eventually they became irrelevant because they didn't do that.
And to kind of piggyback on that, something else I would recommend doing is watching other companies, the sales of new technologies in other companies, kind of like Apple with their iPod, that came out around the same time, and use that secondary data to kind of say, okay, if these guys are being successful in sales they're making on new technology, what are we not doing? And then start targeting people with different incentives to get them to participate in the surveys. Because they mentioned that they were giving away a TiVo logo plush, which I don't think is the best incentive for somebody to want to partake in a survey, instead of giving them either a new box or some kind of discounted price or something like that. I think would help get better data when they're doing their surveys.
No, that's a good observation. There was really no secondary data in the case.
No.
I thought that maybe they in the beginning could have looked at the overall demographic of people who were watching TV. It seems like they got their first market was from the young single males. does this make up the majority of TV watchers? And are these the type of people who are going to be evangelists and sell the product to their friends? Maybe not. Maybe they should have focused on a different market to start out with. Seems like they didn't get a good hold on the overall consumer, the majority, as you say. So I thought maybe that's something they could have taken a step back in the very beginning and looked at the overall market of TV watchers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with your point. I think they were kind of limited in their advertising, or their, I guess, looking for the demographic that they wanted to bring in. I guess if they had a larger or a broader promotion, maybe they could target people that would maybe be less likely to purchase the product, but they see something that they liked about sporting or rewinding. And it's possible that there are some people that just didn't really understand the technology and they were afraid to use it, and they would think they would be able to use it efficiently. So maybe put out ads that are targeted towards people that, it's an older crowd possibly that doesn't really understand how to use the fast forward or the pause or the recording features. Say, look, this is really user friendly. We can make this marketable to everybody. It's not just for, kids that are coming up and they understand that.
I think that's really
for you as well. So
yeah, I think that's a good point, that people might think that this new technology might be difficult to use. Why do they need this? It's an inconvenience. But if they showed how easy it is to use, I think, to your point, that could really help them out.
That's kind of like the current advertisement that Xfinity uses for their equivalent to the TiVo. They actually show someone pushing the buttons, and it's as simple as one click to watch your show.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's all embedded now. Well, I think we got our 15 minutes.
I think so. Does anyone have any closing thoughts on the TiVo startup and consumer behavior?
I think we hit everything that we needed to hit, right? Sounds good to
I
me.
think so too. I'm going to end the recording.